Following the session on why implement the didactics of emotions in school, this session gives consideration into how you might go about implementing the didactics of emotions in school. Consideration will be given to three key areas which focus on developing the school context for implementing didactics of emotions. The specific context, cultural and environmental influences will differ between schools, and research is limited in this area. However, research has consistently suggested that cultural sensitivity in programme policies and staff interactions is associated with overall programme effectiveness. Few studies have examined the moderating role of the school-level social processes, such as the social norms, structures of relationships taking place within the school, and it is these relationships within which social and emotional literacy interventions are embedded. Although the idea of a threshold concept has been proposed, being that a minimum level of a supportive climate is needed in order to implement a programme, and the more able the school is to reflect this climate, the more successful the programme is likely to be. A key goal of the didactics of emotions is to enhance the quality of the student-teacher relationships and peer relationships. When thinking about how to implement didactics of emotions within a supportive school climate, relationships and the involvement of staff is essential. Frameworks such as the Human Givens model are explored as a way to consider these relationship needs and to explore the importance of them with staff. The social discipline window comes from restorative practice. It is a simple but useful framework with broad application in many settings. It describes 4 basic approaches to maintaining social norms and behavioural boundaries. The 4 areas are represented as different combinations of high or low control and high or low support. The restorative domain combines both high control and high support and is characterised by doing things with people rather than to them or for them. This promotes a sense of belonging, agency and autonomy. It is through this approach that staff are more likely to actively participate within the Didactics of Emotions programme. As with other aspects of curriculum and learning standards, such as mathematics or learning to read, the goals for social and emotional domains are based on developmentally appropriate practice, and these communicate the priorities for children and create consistency across practice. Additional ways to ensure consistency of practice and fidelity in the delivery of the social emotional programme is through the use of a shared language, understood by those involved, and this also includes sharing practice with families and further serves as an opportunity to reinforce key messages. Students learn most effectively when they actively participate in order to internalise learning. Using their own experiences helps to embed concepts in reality. Using links between other areas of learning also enables further reflection and the application of skills. This is a useful activity to explore with staff groups. Ask them to consider this question: what helps and what hinders good relationships, reflecting on the interactions they have had with others. Some thoughts may reflect time and space, the opportunity to interact, discuss, the wider context of the environment, an empathetic response, confidence, being a good listener. This should provide a helpful insight into the school climate and staff perceptions and priorities, as well as start to highlight ways in which they can further develop opportunities to build relationships with children. The social exchange theory proposes that social relationships are like economic bargains, in which people place a value on the material or non-material, such as affection, that they exchange with each other. On some level, people keep track of this exchange and make a judgment about whether what they receive is balanced with what they give. People participate in relationships that are personally rewarding and where the rewards exceed the costs of the relationship. When people are deciding whether to stay in a relationship, they not only conduct a cost-benefit analysis, but also compare their relationship with the possible rewards and costs in alternative relationships. Consideration and reflection could take place to question whether relationships are balanced. We also need to ensure that children and young people experience and identify with the benefits of positive relationships. This is particularly relevant for those for whom their experience leads them to believe these are lacking. The internal working model is how we view what we believe about ourselves, others, and the world. It influences what we expect of and from ourselves, others, and the world in general, and directs how we respond. It begins to form as soon as we are born, and is based on experiences with others and the outcomes of our efforts, embedded within attachment theory. An infant that experiences frequent abuse or neglect can develop a negative internal working model that says, "No one cares about me. I am unlovable. People who are supposed to love me only hurt or reject me. It doesn't matter what I do or say, it is ineffective or not good enough. I can't trust people, as one time they may be nice and the next time they are mean," etc. If this model of self, others, and the world, and how things work, is not corrected, the result may be a child or adult that has low self-esteem, is overly dependent or overly independent, overreacts to situations, sabotages relationships, jobs, and successes, gives up easily, etc. Or an infant that receives constant, responsive, attuned nurturing from his or her caregivers is most likely to develop a positive internal working model. We are often not aware of a child's internal working model. This may present challenges when trying to build relationships, some of which can be understood by appreciating the view they hold of themselves. So whilst relationship building may not be easy for all, it may well be the start of beginning to see things differently. The human givens model is based on humanistic psychology and the work of Maslow, and suggests that there are 10 main innate emotional needs. Security, a safe territory and an environment which allows us to develop fully. Attention, to both give and receive it, like a form of nutrition. A sense of autonomy and control, having volition to make responsible choices. Being emotionally connected to others, feeling part of a wider community. Friendship, intimacy, to know that at least one other person accepts us totally for who we are, unconditionally. Privacy, an opportunity to reflect and consolidate experiences. A sense of status within social groupings. A sense of competence and achievement. Having meaning and purpose, which comes from being stretched in what we do and think. When considering what helps and hinders the development of relationships, are these fundamental emotional needs prioritised within schools, for the staff, and students? Asking staff their views on this topic would help to open discussion and highlight areas for further development. Building on this, ask staff to consider and make notes about what they feel gets in the way of them communicating with their students. They may consider noise, physical geographical considerations, mental attitude, poor feedback, poor listening skills, the selection of language used. Then ask them to consider whether these ideas would fit under the headings of body language, questions, listening, or another area. Finally, ask them to consider and note the positive ways to communicate that also fit under these headings. Seek to summarise what has come out as the main skills, knowledge, and characteristics for a perfect communicator. How many of these do they think they may already have? Which do you think they may need to develop? How could they go about developing these? Which may be the hardest to develop? Listening is key to communicating with students, enabling little details to be noticed which can provide support through issues which may arise. Most people are not good at listening to others. We are told to listen at school, not trained or coached to. Active listening is a term that is used to highlight the importance of this skill and how this requires high levels of concentration and awareness. A quote that speaks for itself. Previous discussion may have also highlighted the need that people have to feel comfortable in communicating with each other. Reflecting on the way in which we achieve this, building rapport, through the way we speak as well as what we say, is important. Individuals need to feel that not only are they being listened to, but that the other person wants to listen. Being conscious of our non-verbal communication is also key in enabling others to feel comfortable. The use of mirroring can support this communication, as at a subconscious level it illustrates the level of active listening and responsiveness of others. The most effective questions for use in conversations begin with words that seek to quantify or gather facts. What, when, how, who, how much. Why and how questions can often be discouraged, however, as they can imply criticism. So instead of why, what are the reasons? Instead of how, what are the steps? Open questions requiring descriptive answers promote awareness, whereas closed questions are too absolute for accuracy. So the careful use of questions can help to develop conversations further and enable individuals to reflect. Here are some examples of potentially useful questions. As with any type of change, there are potential barriers to implementation. Strong leadership is essential. The core ideas and themes need to be understood within the didactics of emotions and practiced by all members of the school team throughout the school day. There is a time commitment, but this could and should be built into other areas of the curriculum and registration time. Supportive resources, once developed, can be shared amongst school staff. Sustaining motivation. This could be supported by setting up times for discussion, sharing of practice through action learning sets, where teaching staff can discuss and problem solve any issues they come across. Other areas of the curriculum are important. However, research has shown, and has been highlighted within Session 1, the strong link between social and emotional skill development and academic achievement. Sensitive issues are likely to arise where children are emotionally literate, and it is part of the culture of the school to discuss and develop empathy and understanding. Research shows that those who suppress their emotions end up with physical as well as mental health difficulties, so it is important to address these issues and use the online support for staff in dealing with these situations. The emotional literacy of staff will develop as this programme becomes part of the school culture. To summarise, where staff perceive the need to change and recognise the value in implementing the Didactics of Emotions programme, they will be active in supporting the programme. Finding ways to involve the staff in planning, participating and problem solving will ensure their commitment.